Hi all, I'm Libby, proud captain of Millwall Lionesses. Thank you to our Millwall fan show from the No One Likes Us Talking team for sponsoring me this year. Make sure you give them a listen like I do. Or even better, why not sponsor a Lioness while you're at it like they do? Thank you always for your continued support.
This podcast is a proud member of the Fan Hub 100. Football without fans is nothing, so we've partnered with Fan Hub to put fans first. Search Fan Hub app to play your part in the journey.
Hi, I'm Bethany Warren, and you are joining me to listen to the podcast of our Millwall fan show with the No One Likes Us Talking team, which is available every Friday at 8 p.m.
It's Friday. I'm your host, Eamon Barclay, and I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Henry Morgan, George the Lampoon Lampy, and Jeff Burnage.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Yeah, before I start, I'm going to say Bethany's not with us tonight, and thankfully Henry Morgan stepped in at short notice. And Bethany, we all wish you well, recover, and make sure you're okay. Take care. Well, hello, Henry, your first appearance as a substitute here tonight. Tell us, what about the game against Barnsley at the Den on Saturday?
Good evening, Eamon. Barnsley, I think there was a lot of consternation, I think, about the team selection. I think actually we're going to have to expect a certain amount of rotation with the amount of games coming up. I think something that I've looked at is in December we've got 8 games with one of the smallest squads in the division. Is a 1-1 draw at home to Barnsley a result that people would want? Potentially not, but if you've got a team that comes to the Den and puts 9 people behind the ball for the majority of the game, goes 1 goal up, potentially it's almost a point gained as opposed to 2 points dropped. It's not the end of the world. When we look back on a game like that, if we look back at last season, obviously Barnsley is one of, inverted commas, those teams. It was a point picked up, not 2 points dropped. And I know that a lot of people will not see that point of view with the starting 11 that we had. But actually, in terms of the squad rotation, I think we've done well there, especially with the upcoming games that we've got.
Well, thanks for that, Henry. That's good. So, are you still looking on the bright side of life, George, after that draw at Barnsley, or were you more enamoured with what happened at Preston this week?
I think I may be in the camp where I was a little bit concerned of what players were picked for that game, if I'm honest. I understand the point Henry's making. I obviously was at the Den Saturday, and I didn't see the game, of course, because it was a really surreal situation being at the Den and not even knowing that there was a game of football going on outside. But I think Barnsley were a much better team than we may have given them credit for, and I think that showed in the week when they beat QPR. All in all, I was happy, but I did think that, as much as I understand the rotation system, I think sometimes it makes us weak on occasions.
Jeff, did you think we made amends at Preston?
On the Barnsley game, I thought our second half performance was on a totally different level to our first half performance, and I'd rather it was that way round rather than the team got worse in the second half than they were in the first half. I thought we deserved to win the game against Barnsley, but you don't win every game, do you? And we're in a good run of form, and we showed that with the performance at Preston, which once again we proved to be very, very hard to score against or even make a chance against. We've conceded very few chances this season. That was the real story of Wednesday night for me. Yeah, it was great to watch. Either on iFollow or on the red button on Sky. It was good viewing, wasn't it? Really enjoyable.
Absolutely, Jeff.
It was
undoubtedly.
indeed, yes.
Before we speak to our first guest, I would like to say that we wish Gary Rowett and his coaching staff all the best, having tested for COVID-19. Recover well, and we look forward to your return with the team to a game not in the too distant future. Tonight, we welcome a Wimbledon-born and Purley-raised former Lion. He was picked up as a youngster whilst playing for Croydon Schools by a local side, Crystal Palace. He stayed with the Eagles from 1991 as a youth player, whilst also attending a Lancing College and becoming a senior player through to 2002. He moved on to Brentford in 2002 after almost 5 years with the Bees. He then joined Millwall in 2007 for yet another one of those undisclosed fees, Jeff. His Millwall career began slowly when he did not quite gel with the defensive group in his first season, but he eventually won over the Millwall supporters with a series of strong, gutsy displays, culminating in him winning the Supporters Player of the Year award for the 2008-9 season. In the summer of 2011, after spending much of the season on loan at Swindon Town, he left the Lions for the first time and joined Gillingham. He made one further move to play for the team named after his place of birth, because they wasn't playing at Wimbledon at that time, but that's the team he played for, where he hung up his boots in 2015. In July of that year, he returned to the Den as a coach, where he worked closely with the first team as well as with the club's academy sides, but he left us for the final time on the 15th of February 2016 for personal reasons. Our then manager, Neil Harris, said he has done a terrific job since coming in as coach last summer and he will be missed. But I completely respect his decision. It is the one and only Andy Frampton that joins us in the virtual studio tonight. Hello, Andy.
Hi there, chaps. How are we doing?
Hello, Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Hello, Andy. Welcome to the show.
Jeff. Hi, all.
That was good. They all said hello to you. Anyway.
Is that the first?
Yeah, you're
Please
the
tell
first.
me it's the first.
You're the first this year. Andy, before I let you off the panel, you are a close friend and colleague of Neil Harris. It must have been a difficult decision for you to leave from that coaching role.
Yeah, it was a really tough decision. I'd been doing a part-time role when I first left the professional game as a player, and I got a call more or less within about 24 hours without him knowing that I'd left my playing career, saying, "Would you like to do some scouting for Millwall in the summer?" I said, "Do you know I've retired?" And he said, "No." And he went, "Right, okay, then that changes a few things. Let's talk about more stuff as we go along over the next few weeks. I'm trying to put in place something for the next season, and would like you to come and join me at Millwall as a coach, probably taking care of the under-21s. At the time, it was under-21s, into the under-23s and helping Livers and myself on match days." And it went from there, and it was I think I was actually there for only 6 months in the end. But I was working with my father at the time, as I said I would when I left the game, at the same time. But his health went downhill, and from that point, I just knew I had to leave and take a full-time role with him. And football's so all-encompassing. I was absolutely devastated to leave Neil and his team, but also I had to do what I did, and I don't regret it.
Goodness, I think a Martian landed at the end of that, Andy, and it came from Henry's microphone. So at least we know where it's coming from.
He's a nightmare. He's only been on here. This is his first show, and he's a nightmare.
I'm here. I've just followed on. I wasn't sure exactly where we were, but now I've picked it up.
You mean there's actually a script for this?
Over to you, Henry.
You'll get that.
Hi, Andy. Apologies. It's my first show this evening. Henry Morgan here, lifelong Millwall fan.
Hi, Henry.
Hey, how did your transfer from Brentford to Millwall come about? And what were your thoughts ahead of coming to Bermondsey?
That's quite interesting because we had a bit of a rocky season. The year before, we had Martin Allen as manager, and we had been in the playoffs 2 years on the trot.
And
the following year, Leroy Rossignol came in, and the club had changed drastically, and a lot of players left. And we really struggled that year. And I thought to myself, okay, we've been relegated because that's what happened at Brentford. that season before moving to Millwall. And I thought, right, roll up your sleeves and go again and try and get back into League One. And out of the blue, more or less out of the blue, I got a call in the summer holiday saying one of the players at Millwall is leaving, and you could fill the void. Would you be interested in going to Millwall? Well, yes, absolutely. I'm playing in the league that I'd been playing in for many years, and obviously, well, not obviously, my brother was a massive Millwall fan when I was a kid, and he's a bit older than me, and he used to go along with our neighbour to all home games. And I thought, yeah, why not? Let's have a crack at this. I know all about Millwall through him and what it's all about. And I thought my style of play may suit Millwall's kind of ethos.
Yes, indeed, absolutely.
So I thought, let's have a go at it. And then Willie Donaghy got in contact with my agent, and we went from there. That was that. It didn't take much thinking about, to be honest. It was about as quick as I just explained it.
Willie,
that came back.
Andy, it's George. Willie Donaghy was manager when you came to us. Was that right?
That's right. Yeah.
What sort of man was he? Because we never really got to know Willie very much, really. It was a fairly quick turnover, I suppose. But what sort of guy was he as a manager?
He was very quiet and unassuming. The first recollection of Willie was turning up at the training ground for medical, and he didn't even want to know about the medical. He wanted to take me up into the office for a kind of interview on what my personality was like, which surprised me. But he had so much experience from his time being in what was the old First Division and Premier League, to be Premier League, that everyone had a respect for him. From what I saw when I first turned up, that somewhat went down the pan as we went through that first season. I was with the Lions.
Yeah.
So let's carry on then from there, Andy. What did happen during that season? Willie left at some point, didn't he? I'm not sure when that was. Was that around the New Year?
It was around the New Year. I think we were just coming up to the Christmas period.
And is that when Neil became caretaker? Is that right?
We had Colin West.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
And Richard Shaw. They came in and took over for the interim between Willie and Kenny coming in.
That's it, yeah.
So that was that. I mean, our results proved that we weren't firing on all the cylinders, whatever the reason was. Willie obviously wasn't getting the best out of the boys, because it took for Kenny really to come in and shake things up to get us out of the mire and push in the other direction.
What are your reflections of Kenny and his management style? What did you enjoy playing under Kenny?
I did, very much so. He played a lot with the loan market in that first season, and we had many players come and go. But I think we went from the kind of let's go and show how we can play football to let's be the fittest team in the league very quickly. And we were run all over Calmont Road, to be honest, until we got to a fitness that he was happy with, that could go out and outrun teams. And that's what we became in the early stages of Kenny's time. That evolved, obviously, as everyone will know, but we just had to become fitter, stronger, and mentally tougher than we were under Willie. They're the facts.
Andy, what's your take on football without fans? Does it make sense, for example, to look at something like the Albert Hall, which can stage inside events for thousands upon thousands of people, and you can circulate around shopping centres, but we can't go into the stands and be socially distanced in the open air to watch Millwall at the Den? What are your thoughts on that?
Firstly, I think the game's been played a bit slower than you would expect with the fans in. I think the fans, the atmosphere that they create, whether it's the home team, away team, etc., makes a big difference. Even if you're playing badly at home, it can even you saw last night, I think with Preston, they would have completely gone the way Millwall had set up had they had their own fans. They haven't won at home, they haven't scored at home. I think that's just quite I do think it's lost its edge. I genuinely do. A lot of people ask me, and I said I reckon it will be a bit like reserve team football, and that was at the back end of last season.
Yeah. The thing I was going to ask as well that sort of interests me is I feel like you're getting some quite bizarre score lines. And do you think that there's almost slightly less pressure on some of the defenders, for example, so they feel that they may be not able to make those mistakes, but they're not maybe quite as accountable?
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. Certainly in the lower leagues, if you're looking at even League One, League Two, you go that far down, I think there's a lot more chances being taken. I don't think if there's even 5,000 in the stadium and they make a bad pass or a bad decision, they would take those chances again. And it looks like they're trying to evolve football, trying to take the chances while they can without being scrutinised, for want of a better word, the speed and everything. It's just not the same at the moment. And I do believe it's not the same. Less tempo, definitely less tempo. Last night watching the game, I thought Preston wouldn't have sat there with 5 behind a field of 11 Millwall players passing tippy-tappy across the back when they've got 15,000 on their back. It's just not the same at the moment. And everyone understands why it's being done or don't understand why this is being done. When you consider what's happening with supermarkets and all the rest of it, I don't know why on earth we can't at least get half a stadium full. But again, that's not my place. But I think people do agree with that, and it's a real shame that's the way it is. But at the end of the day, we're still able to watch it on the TV. There's a lot more coverage of football matches for people that can't get to games, and so there's a positive there too.
Yeah, well, I feel particularly sorry for the fans of teams that got to Wembley at the delayed end of last season. Can you imagine when you were with us, if we got to Wembley in the playoff final and it was played behind closed doors, that would not have been anything like the same memorable experience, would it, Andy?
No, and that goes for fans and players, because sometimes clubs, unlike Millwall, have one chance in their careers to get there. I heard Millwall talking about being a second home in recent years when I've gone to the games there. But that is what you want. You want the atmosphere. You want that to be buzzing. You want it to be full. And that is it. Fans or players and management and staff. It's the way it is. And it is a real shame that this has happened. I can't work out when it's ever going to be lifted either. I just can't. I can't see it in the foreseeable. So we may have to do with it for another 6 months at least.
What was the atmosphere like at Wembley when you played there for us?
Unbelievable. When I explain it, talking and boring people with my career since I finished playing, and you walk out that tunnel, or certainly on the first occasion, which actually we should have won, and ended up losing 3-2 against Scunthorpe, and you walk out and Millwall have got 3/4 of the stadium full, and the 55,000 turn up, they just go, what? I go, seriously, you don't quite get what it was like. It was just unbelievable going through. Hottest day on the planet, by the way. Must have been 35 degrees on that pitch. Certainly felt it after 10 minutes. But it was, electric. Absolutely electric.
Andy, one of the things that I always liked from our supporters' point of view, actually, and not only your own, but when you won the Player of the Season, I think that was 08-09, the fact that backline players, Millwall tend to vote for the guys who are at the back of the defence, as opposed to, I think a lot of teams' supporters only ever look at the forward line, don't they, when they're voting for things like that. And I always thought that was great. Guys like you, we seem to appreciate, and I'm sure it was great for you also, wasn't it?
Well, it was. I think it really sums up the club. In the sense of, it's great. Every week, the goal scorers get the plaudits. But actually, the amount of graft that goes on at the back in most clubs but the fact that it's been acknowledged at Millwall is unbelievable. I mean, Richard Shaw, Robbo, Dunny, Fordy get in there as well, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
That was all within. That was within about. It was about 6 years worth of Players of the Year, Fans Player of the Year. Obviously after my time and slightly before, but again, that it is incredible, and I think it sums up the whole ethos of the club. It's great to be able to do the old step over and nutmeg someone and whack it in the top right hand corner, but the amount of graft, the amount of work and ethic that all those players I just mentioned put in, they deserve their recognition.
I think the reason they won the Player of the Year, the defenders, was we didn't actually have a forward that could do a step over and put it in the top corner. otherwise we might have voted for the bugger. So,
I don't know if that's the case now.
Do you manage to get along to any games in the flesh these days, Andy, or are you a television fan now?
More of a television fan. The last one I went to was a thriller at the Den last season, and it was Newport, where only one stand was opened up for the fans.
They knew you were coming, mate, didn't they?
It was when it was cheap. That's when the tickets were cheap, that game, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Well, bloody hell, the players' wages have gone out the window now, fellas, so I need to be careful. But I said to my son, we were up in London for one reason or another, and I said to him, look, while we were up here, Millwall were playing at home, let me take you to what it was like. And he remembers going there, and it was absolutely buzzing and jumping. He's now 16 years old. And I took him there. I said, do you remember this? And he goes, no, there's no one here. I said, come on, it's a bit, He goes, no, this is nothing like I remember it. I was like, that backfired quite a lot. But anyway, no, it was lovely to go back. And would like to go back once the stadiums are full again.
Michael Calvin obviously mentioned you as one of the governors in the team when he wrote his book. If anybody meets you, you're the nicest possible man. Do you become a bit of a monster once you put the shirt on? This is George. So when I call you again, if you never answer, I'm going to understand it.
That's all right. It's a good question. I play a bit of a kickabout on Monday nights, and I haven't changed. And I've fallen out with about 9 out of the 10 that I play football with on a Monday night. So yes, I can't help it. I don't know what it is. It's a mindset. Unfortunately, when I was playing at Millwall, there were 10 others that did the same. So it worked out quite well. But no, you're not the first person to say that.
Right.
Do you still have that relationship with Neil? You're close and keep in touch?
We haven't done so much since he's done his move.
Yeah.
I think for obvious reasons. Neil is blood and thunder for the job he's in. And he spends a lot of his time either researching other teams or putting the preparation for his own team to go out and perform. And we haven't had much chat. We've done a few texts since he's been at Cardiff. But what a great bloke! Always has so much time for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're his best mate or someone who's just a colleague or acquaintance. The guy gives enough time to everyone. So always fond memories of my time with him at Millwall.
So during that season, Andy, when it was the family, did you have a feeling that it was the beginning of something good for the club?
Yeah, I think the feeling was definitely there that as soon as we were up and running and the team nucleus and the spine of the team was so strong, no matter who came into that change room, they either fit in with us or they didn't. And if they didn't, they were gone quite quickly. And because of that, and it was all-out mental attitude of we win at all costs to a certain extent in League One, there was always this feeling that we were on something special. And obviously it was only a stepping stone to where the team are now and what they're achieving. But it was still an important cog in that kind of turning the corner and getting Millwall back to where they belong, I believe anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
On leaving Millwall, Andy, you moved to Gillingham. I suspect that wasn't that an easy thing to do on the first occasion that you left us either.
No, very tough. I was obviously spent a good couple of seasons really putting the effort in to get into the Championship with Millwall. Didn't actually play a game in the Championship for Millwall. No. Only a couple of bench appearances, didn't get on the pitch in the Championship, which was a bit gut-wrenching because worked tirelessly for that, but that was manager's decision, had to respect it, and realised I was kind of coming into that stage of my career where I needed to be playing, get as many appearances as I possibly could, and just started making the noises to say, look, I need to go out and play. As much as I'd love to sit here and take a chance when someone gets injured, the likelihood is I reckon the manager would have probably brought someone in anyway to fill the void. So it was the right, whether it was the right time, I don't know, but it needed. I think it needed to happen. Otherwise, I could have sat there for a year or two, not doing a lot, and then no one would touch you anyway once you came out. So it was gutting, really gutting, but I had to do it.
But it's good that you still follow the lines, and I understand you, as you do, all of the clubs that you played for. So,
yeah.
Or even Palace.
Oh. Who's that?
Actually, funnily enough, I'm not just saying this because I'm on the radio with you guys, but not really. I don't have any really fond memories as such. That I didn't play very many games for them. My career really set off when I was at Brentford. It was, it was a very strange time at Crystal Palace. Very strange. We had a number of managers, went into administration once or twice, a number of chairmen. It was a funny old affair. But when I went to Brentford, I felt like that was the step to go on and try and push the career as best I could and get to as high as I could at the time.
Yeah, you done well there, and I think we were lucky to pick you up. So that was fantastic.
We were indeed.
You served us well. There's no doubt about that. But it's been great to speak with you tonight, Andy. But before you go, we have a fine tradition, which is called "Please give us a prediction for this Saturday's game." So it's Millwall v Huddersfield. What do you reckon's going to happen?
Yeah. Millwall at home, on the rise, long journey. I reckon we'll win the game 2-1. Millwall 2, Huddersfield 1.
Well, that's a good prediction. We'll take that every day of the week. And thanks, Andy. I'm sure we will talk again. I've got such a list of questions here, you wouldn't believe it. But we'll have to go with that on another night. And it's been great having you on. It's really been worth the wait, in fact. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much for having me on. Thanks for the invite. Great to chat to you guys. All the best for the season. Hope to chat to you soon.
All the best, Andy. Yeah,
thanks,
See you. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye, Andy. Bye. Well, that was great listening to Andy there. Well,
he's got a nice talking voice, hasn't he?
Yeah, we could have him on the show as an interviewer, I think. He might take over for
poor Henry's only just got the job, hasn't he?
I'm not so sure that's what the issue is. But anyway, we'll take a break there and listen to Bethany Warren, who couldn't join us tonight, talking about Love Sport Radio.
Bethany Warren here again. Thanks for listening to our show. Don't forget, Love Sport Radio is now mothballed pending change in current conditions. You can still listen though to music both online and on DAB. Podcasts are available on demand. Hopefully we'll be back on the air with them when normality returns to the marketplace.
Yeah, I'm Eamon, and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of Henry Morgan, Jules Lampy and Jeff Burnage. I must say that before we go on to the next section, that there's still people that are trying to tune in to us on Love Sport Radio. Sadly, the radio station is functioning as news and music, but we're not there. It is actually in mothballs. When things change, we hope that you can tune in to us on the air with Love Sport Radio. Anyhow, next up we'll hear from Alex Russell of the Lionesses media team and now Millwall Lionesses joint assistant manager. Hello, Alex Russell, and congratulations. I do hope your appearances on our Millwall Community Trust special and your interviews of the Lionesses for our Millwall fan show contributed to your appointment as joint assistant manager alongside Nick Farr and under the eyes of that woman at the helm, Katie Whitmore.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's a pleasure. Thank you for congratulating me and having me on. You know, it's all for the club. It's all for the benefit of the players. And it's been a pleasure so far, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. So what do you think, looking blue sky? What are you looking at?
Fabulous to be given the opportunity to come in and develop not only the players but myself as a coach. You know, the goal hasn't changed. It's not going to change. We're still looking to get that promotion and develop those young. We've got a young squad, as we've mentioned previously. Yeah. You know, coming in and knowing that Katie and the committee see something in me is, it's brilliant to say the least, and it's a real confidence booster, but I don't want to let them down.
No, tremendous accolade. I know you've been interested and you've obviously done some coaching certificate, and that's great stuff that you've got the opportunity to both develop those skills and enhance them in the future. As far as working with Katie and Nick, you've obviously been close to them in your involvement with the Lionesses and the media team, so that's made things a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. Like you say, being on the media team, we're having to conduct interviews with staff, but what's, I think, helped me is that the rapport is already there. It's already built with the staff. It's already built with the players. So it's not like a new coach coming in and having to find their feet and settle down. You know, the relationship's already there, and I think it just made it easier to sort of guide me into the role, if you will.
Well, I think so. There's a lot of the Lionesses that seem very keen to have you on board, and I think it's a great job well done. So, Alex, all the best. We'll have to have you on for a chat on our Millwall fan show in not the too distant future. We always love to hear from you. Congratulations. Absolutely. And enjoy.
Thank you very much, and look after yourselves.
I'm delighted for Alex, and many of our team offered their congratulations on social media. Well done. Great appointment. And he will still be doing our Lionesses interviews in the future. That's very kind of him, and great news too. Well, after 3 defeats on the spin, there was a return to victory for the Lionesses. Jeff, you were in attendance. What did you make of the performance?
Well, it was lovely to see us win again after a dodgy little spell. We've had a lot of players missing, mainly injury, but for some other reasons as well. And it was a big boost to win that game last Sunday. It was a home game. It was played elsewhere from St Paul's, where we normally play, because the league did thrust that game on the Lionesses at short notice. And quite frankly, I think they did well to find a venue as good as the one we had, which was at Blackheath Rugby Club. Abbeydale scored 2 more. Shannon Drew got another one. And the other one was an own goal, which I always hate an own goal. I think you can always find someone to give it to. So a comfortable 4-1 win. We're actually top of the league again now, although there are 2 teams below us with a game in hand, which would change that unless we beat them. But it's nice to go into a 2-week break. There's no game this weekend. The following weekend, we'll do a preview in next week's programme. That will be a home game. It will be at St Paul's. It will be 2 o'clock. And it's against London Orient in the Combined Counties Cup. The other thing about last Sunday, which was nice, was that being 4-1 up quite close to the end, Katie was able to give our number 2 keeper, Larissa Miller, her league debut, and she made one very good save, and she is great competition for Lily Carter. But a great win, really enjoyed it, and they get a week off this week, so I'm looking forward to the one after that against the Orient.
Well, thanks for that, Jeff. It's good to know that you're there, and you gave us a good account of what took place and what else is going on. Henry, you got any thoughts on the Lionesses, and after the 3 defeats on the spin, a good result this last weekend?
Yeah, I think I've only watched their results so far from afar, Eamon, but I think that it's good to see them get back to winning ways, isn't it? I mean, I obviously followed a lot of the fallout that happened, the season before last. I know that, but it's good to see them being able to rebuild, begin to get back to winning ways. I would encourage, myself, I include myself in this, but as many Millwall fans as possible to go down to St Paul's and, to turn out and actually watch them play and get behind them.
How about you, George? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just very impressed. As Henry was saying there, it was hard times only a season and a half ago for the Lionesses, and to see what goes on there, to see how the team has come along, how they're growing. I think they are a young team, and to be top of the league at this moment in time, I think is really great. It's a work in progress, and I think they're doing really well. And it's, as a supporter of the football, of them girls, I think it's lovely to see it.
Yeah. Can I just add to that? We aren't allowed to go and see Millwall's men's team in the Championship play live. For me, I just feel able to go and watch the Lionesses on a Sunday afternoon at St Paul's in Rotherhithe at 2:00 and see a live Millwall team. It's really enjoyable, and the crowd get behind them. Yeah, there's a very, very good vibe. Can I just say that Eamon's harped on about losing 3 games, but 2 of those were in the Cups against teams that were from higher levels. So, we slipped up in 1 league game, surprisingly, but there's plenty of time to catch up with that now. And obviously, while they're trying to develop these young players, they also want to get promotion. And the more that get down there, the better it will be.
Absolutely, Jeff. I think game on the 9th, which is Remembrance Sunday, is going to be a great day. You've got the Romans in the morning, and they're playing, dare I say, the Addicts. It's going to be a great game at 11 o'clock in the morning. Yes, it's Charlton at St Paul's against the Millwall Romans at 11 o'clock on Sunday the 9th. In the afternoon, it's the Lionesses versus Orient at 2 o'clock. And in between, there's going to be remembrance ceremony taking place, the details of which I'm not totally sure of at the moment, but that should be some spectacle. And if you can get a ticket for that, which there is going to be some form of payment, it'll be a good day out all round. I hope many can get down to that. The team beat Charlton in the morning and watch the Lionesses beat Orient in the afternoon. And the commemorative service for Remembrance Sunday. It'll be good to see. And we're going to turn over to Millwall Romans, and we're going to hear from that player, Tom Baker, actor, but not the one that was in Doctor Who, interviewing fellow team member Scott Emery.
So for today's game, we're joined by Councillor Scott Emery. So it's our first away game since February last year, and our first game on grass this year. How did we get on?
Well, we did quite well. I think the score in the end was 7-2. And yeah, I think the grass was a bit of something we had to get used to in the first 5 minutes. We had a lot of bobbles, had a lot of misplaced passes, just trying to get used to it. But I think after that first 10 minutes, we did really well.
Yeah.
And we got used to it. And we scored a lot of goals again, which is a fun one.
It was our first time going behind since actually being under the Millwall umbrella.
Bit of a shock.
Yeah, it was. How did we cope, do you reckon?
I think it should change the game plan. I think they come out with a good setup. and we just had to get used to that. And once we got used to that and settled in, we defended a bit more solidly and then passed it around a bit more, and then got the goals, and the strikers were doing quite well.
Yeah, Adil got 2 today. I mean, they were both pretty amazing. Talk me through them. They deserve some credit.
They do. Well, he loves cutting in, and he cut in on that left side and then just bent it into the top corner, and it was a gorgeous one. The second one was another gorgeous free kick. He loves free kicks. I think he scored 2 or 3 last season.
How far out do you reckon it was?
Let's be generous and say 30 yards. Top corner, and keeper had no chance. Really good strike.
So here's a fun stat. 44 goals in 4 games for the Millwall Romans. Amazing. Did you expect that?
Well, I knew we were going to be good, and especially when we're on that nice pitch, and he's always going to be playing some silky football, and oh wow. But yeah, last week and this week again to score so many is great. And of course, unfortunately I didn't get one this week, but I did get one last week, so it's nice to see.
In our 26-0 victory. Okay, and lastly, I do have to ask you about this. You obviously have a lot on your plate. You've got your councillor duties, your full-time job, and Millwall Romans training and matches. How do you do that?
Well, I like to keep himself busy, and I think it's important to meld everything together, so you build the fitness in and you keep yourself working all the time, and you don't get much time off to do stuff. But if I'm hanging out with friends when I'm playing football, that makes it a bit easier. And I'm friends with a lot of my councillors as well, so that makes things easier. So I think you just got to work and play at the same time in a weird way, but it works out right in the end.
Okay, and last question, Scott, before we go. Millwall have what are you saying?
Yeah, so both teams have been pretty decent form lately, bit patchy. I'm going to say we either scrape it 2-1 or it's going to be 1-1. So I'm edging my bet, but something like that.
Cautious approach from Scott Emery.
Well, starting stats, undefeated, 44 goals in 4 games and top of the table on goal difference before, lest I say it again, Charlton. This will worry the addicts, no doubt. Have you had much thoughts or understanding around the Millwall Romans, Henry?
I've only just started following them actually on Twitter and following their results. I think I haven't, I haven't spent a lot of time looking at them and really understanding. I know that obviously 44 goals in 4 games. I've put some of them into the first team and help our strikers up front. That's what I would say as a suggestion.
Yeah, there's some compelling, really. They certainly got the one who scored 8 goals last week. Yeah, old Jay.
Stick him in up top. I'll tell you, it gives. Yeah. I mean, we haven't seen Matt Smith for a couple of weeks, so maybe he could do a job there. Zahor went off a bit earlier last night. Obviously, Tom Bradshaw doing a fantastic job. But get these guys. It should be more cross pollination between our teams.
Jules, what do you reckon?
Yeah, well, possibly. I've got a soft spot for these, because Jeff and I interviewed the manager and a couple of the players when we were down there, and I got quite an insight into these guys, and I'm just delighted. And he used the word there, I think, Scott or whoever, but used the word under the Millwall umbrella, and it really does work. When Jeff and I interviewed the guys, they were so taken by how they were treated and welcomed by everybody down there. It was great to see, and I'm delighted for them. As I say, I have a soft spot for them, and I'm really happy that it's going so well.
Yeah, Jeff.
I'd echo what George said there. I mean, I love the club. I feel we're misunderstood. Outsiders never really get Millwall, but people like Andy Frampton come into the club and they really fall in love with it. And I'm very proud that we've got Millwall Romans under the Millwall umbrella and they've been received so well. I think it's just great.
Our next guest this evening arrives as a fan in the dugout, although he is much more widely recognised as an author who has produced some great Millwall books. Because My Dad Does, A Natural High, Ordinary Boys, and After the Lord Mayor's Show, Millwall FC in the 1990s, Part 1. Additionally, he also contributes to our Matchday programme. He comes from Balham, but now resides in the land of Mancunians, but he still follows the Lions, despite the temptation of Premier League giants. We welcome Merv Payne to the virtual studio tonight. Hello, Merv.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Hi, Merv.
Hiya.
Yeah.
Evening.
Good to have you on.
Yes, nice to be on.
Yeah. Before you talk with the team, Merv, what would you say about our season so far?
Really, really impressed, to be honest. I think the progress we've made under Gary Rowett just seems to keep going and going. You know, what he's done in a year is nothing short of remarkable. I think it sort of mirrors what he did when he went to Birmingham. He went there and they were sort of close to the bottom, and he obviously very quickly saw what needed to be done, did it, and got them up the other end of the table. I think the big difference for me is, and I think it's something Gary Rowett said, one of the first things he said when he went into the club was that he wanted the club to sort of look up rather than down the table. And I think perhaps we had a mentality that we were a League One team in the Championship. But as part of the mentality of Mill, obviously, is, you know, the sort of survival mentality. But it was more sort of the attitude that a club that goes up from the Championship to the Premier League has, and they're just grateful to be clinging on to the Premier League. But I think a lot of fans are frustrated by that, and I don't think it was a Neil Harris thing. I think it was that natural progression when you come up from League One to the Championship. Obviously, you want to stay up there, and there's a lot of teams spending a lot of money, so you sort of feel like you need to sort of maybe survive. But I think Rowett's taken that gamble, and he's brought in Championship quality players and a different way of playing. I think the playing style is key, really. Yeah. And that's I mean, some of the football we saw him play last night, and that first goal was. I mean, if that had been someone in the Premier League, it'd been repeated on Sky Sports over and over. That first goal last night, you know. And
Merv as well. I think Ryan Woods for me last night just looked like, you know, a Mill hero. Yeah. I saw someone put, you know, phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, I've been calling the Deptford De Bruyne, but you can. He's got the same colour hair as well. But yeah, I mean that's all it takes to someone like that who's comfortable and knows the Championship inside and out. Ryan Bennett, of course, he's the same, and then you've got and Zahor, who just again, I mean, some of the comments about Zahor on Twitter from I think Cardiff fans and other fans saying like he's probably too good for the Championship. You know, I think he made his debut for Barcelona when they were in the pomp. He's played at such a high level. And he looks a class above, and that's what you need, you know.
I'd say one thing, actually. If you look at that finish last night, it's not as simple as you think it is. It looks like a tap-in, but actually it's a deft finish. I watched it again today, and I thought, actually, it's a bit of class there.
Oh, yeah.
Merv, Henry here.
Henry.
Hey, how you doing? Nice to have you on. Excellent. Yeah. I see you're shown as having worked with the Daily Sport and newspapers, Sport Newspapers Limited. Well, what brought you into the world of journalism?
It was my ambition to sort of work in the press, the media, and in journalism. I'd always written sort of freelance and that sort of thing since I was at college. I was part of the fanzine sort of movement back in the late 80s and got involved with the fanzines. But it was something entirely different that got me into newspapers. It was the internet. I was working as a web designer back in the late 90s, and I had some various contacts at the Sport, and I went in there working on the website of it. But obviously, it's a big open plan place, and I know it's the Sport, but any national newspaper, the sort of, it's a really exciting environment. So you're all in the same place, you know, and it was a great place to work, but also it's the nature of that sort of job is you get a chance to write as well. So I wrote a few sport pieces, some like a sort of sport. They did magazines, sporting features for that, and football features for that. So it was a good way to sort of hone the trade. But I used to get in trouble. I used to drive the sub editors mad because I would always write way too much. And one of the comments from one of the sub editors when he had to sort of hack my stuff down to size to fit was, you know, you should write a book, or he said you should write a something book, but I won't say exactly what he said. But yeah, and so I suppose that was why I think I probably find it easier writing books than writing thousand word articles for newspapers and magazines. But yeah, I was just quite lucky. I sort of fell into it in a way. I was looking for a new job. I went through an agency and I got an interview there. It didn't come off, but they kept in touch with me, and they're a really good bunch of guys, to be honest. It's not what the very similar to Millwall. It's not, once you're actually in there, the reality is very different to the public perception.
Merv, it's George here.
Hello, George.
Hello, mate. Your first book, My Dad Does, clearly paints a picture of why you follow the Lions.
Definitely,
and you was growing up in Belham. Was that seen as an oddity by the locals?
Oh, no, not at all. Because, Belham's not too... It's sort of equal distance from where my mum's family are all Chelsea fans. My dad's are all Millwall. So it was going to go one way or the other, but luckily there was no one on hand to take me to Stamford Bridge, and when I was 7, after a bit of pestering, it was Millwall. So, and that was it. Like I say, as I think I've made quite clear in the book, once I was taken, it's only, I think it was just a short hop on the train to Queen's Road, and I walked down there, and that was it. I was completely hooked, and that was the late 70s, early 80s when things weren't good, but I still get down whenever I can now, and I take my lads, and they love it as well. So I'm forever grateful that it was Millwall and not Chelsea.
Good evening, Merv. It's Jeff here.
Hello, Jeff. Lovely to speak to you.
Lovely to speak to you. Even though when you were writing your books, you never asked me what I thought happened. But it's nice to see somebody. It's always nice to read somebody else's perception. The 90s were really up and down, weren't they? There were some big highs, then there was lows, then there was another period of highs. What do you think is the most interesting bit of that decade that you cover in your book?
One of my favourite books is Jim Murray's Lions of the South. It's a fantastic club history. The bad point of it is that it finishes in the summer of '87, which in many ways is when things really started for Millwall. And I tried to get in touch with Jim to see if there's any chance of him, updating it. I didn't manage to get in touch with him. What I did find out is that he's now writing what's called the Whiskey Bible. He's a whiskey expert, apparently. So there's a big departure. But yeah, when I sat down I thought I wanted to sort of in a way continue his work and document Mill's sort of history and the last 30 years. And when I sat down and looked at the 90s, it was quite mind-boggling, really, what can go on for just one club. I don't mean this in a bad way to like Rochdale. If you was a Rochdale fan, you wrote a book about the 90s, wasn't a lot went on. They didn't even get promoted or relegated or anything like that. But the stuff that went on at Millwall was unbelievable. I think the biggest turning point, if you like, or the biggest change was obviously leaving the Den. I think that came about. I mentioned something like this on Twitter the other day when someone posted a really nice old picture of the fans walking up the steps at the old Den, and I sort of mentioned how we took it for granted, and for all the stories of super dens and redevelopment and moving ground through the 70s and the 80s, I think we started to think, it's not going to happen, we'll never leave this place, and then of course sadly Hillsborough made football clubs think again about the stadiums, and it wasn't viable for the Den to be developed, and suddenly it was a reality that they were leaving the ground, and I think that was very hard for the majority of the fans to accept. And I think that part of the book, that season, which was the final season at Den, was probably one that a lot of Millwall fans didn't want to see. It was a real wrench leaving that place, but I think it had to be done. It was vital for the club to continue and to keep competing. And I think if we look back now, the new place, it's not the same as the old Den, of course, but it's still a fantastic ground, when it's full, or even when it's half full, which is the nature of Millwall supporters. But the atmosphere is brilliant. You think back to, for example, I think the FA Cup games, the goal, the late goal against Leicester. We see it as our home, and it's vital if we want a decent team to have that. So it had to be done, but I think that was a real turning point in the 90s for us.
Merv, I think actually you've touched on the next point that I was actually going to ask you about, which is the fans. So what's your take on football without the fans, and how do you think that's affected our performances? Tail end of last season, beginning of this.
I think there was a stat that came out quite early on in the sort of post-lockdown football how few home wins there were all of a sudden.
You look at Preston's a difficult place to go to win. Like, I think that was our first back-to-back victory there since the 1960s, since 63, 64 or something like that. I think
we were one of the few teams to win there last year, and this season they've not even scored a goal in 3, because obviously our home form's not been as good. I also have a theory that, I'm sort of maybe focusing on the Premier League a bit more, where there's been a ridiculous amount of goals. I do wonder if perhaps some of the players are feeling the pressures off in a little way. Without having the fans there, it might be a silly theory, but if they're perhaps trying something they might not normally, because if it goes wrong, the fans get on their back, and that could be the thing. But I think, as far as from a Millwall point of view, I think take Barnsley last week with a packed den, or with 13,000, 14,000 in there shouting them on, had a good chance of getting a winner. And the same for the Brentford game and the Stoke game. You never know. We could have had a few more points in the board, but it is what it is. I think we will. We'll make good of it, and the away form's been so good. It's not been, it's not been too bad at the moment, really.
Merv, you would have seen a few managers in your time. Do you think Gary Rowett has the potential to be one of Millwall's all-time great managers?
He certainly does. Yeah, I mean, what he's done in such a short space of time is where we are in terms of in the past, and I think we're probably looking at one of the better Millwall squads in the last 20 years. I think, thinking back to the likes of Cahill, Eiffel, Harris, Sadlier, Reid, that sort of team nearly 20 years ago. I think we're on a par. Only time will tell if we can keep it up. And we need luck, really. We need luck of injuries. We've got quite a small squad. We need to keep the key players fit. Who knows? But yeah, he certainly could put his name in the club history this season if things keep going the way they are.
Yeah.
Yes, Mervyn. I mean, I suppose the task is to emulate John Docherty, because he is the only manager ever to lead Millwall into the first division. For our younger listeners, what was remarkable about 88 was with one game to go, we weren't just creeping in through the playoffs. We were top of the league, 7 points clear of the second team. We were so far ahead, we were able to deliberately lose the last game to Blackburn to stop Crystal Palace getting in the playoffs. But that's another story. I'm sure that should be the subject of some discussion someday. But Gary's been very fortunate to be backed so well by John Berylson, who's been an incredible chairman. I mean, you have to give it to him. He's backed the manager, and we have got a good side now. And I think we are quite strong in depth. I think that bench we had last night, any one of those could have been in the team, and that was after Alex Pearson and Williams left themselves out of the 18 completely. One thing I would like to ask you, Mervyn, about your books. I'm sure this programme will have excited people's interest in reading one or more of your books. What's the best way for them to get hold of them?
It's Amazon, really, at the moment. Amazon's there. That's the only thing for everything at the moment. Yeah, Amazon.co.uk. You can get it in paperback format or on Kindle. The current one is available online at afterthelordmayorshow.co.uk. But yeah, Amazon's the best place to get all of them.
Well, let's all get onto Amazon and start booking our books out. And if you get them all together, you probably get them cheaper through on the delivery as well. Did you know that? And Merv, not only has Merv got Millwall books, but he's got a nice book for the kids at Christmas too, haven't you, Merv?
Yes, I recently sort of started up a little publishing company to because there's a lot of talented writers out there and stuff like that who can't, get their work published. So it was like a lockdown project, really. I've started that up and found some really talented kids book writers and illustrators, that sort of thing. So we're selling them. So there's you can see all them at victorpublishing.co.uk, which is the name of the publishing company. And I would just like to say, certainly for the second half of the 90s, I'll definitely need to speak to Jeff, I think, about things that went on in the second half of the 90s, because again, it was very eventful. So hopefully I'll be able to.
I'll be delighted. It's very easy to get hold of me. So I look forward to that, Mervyn. It'll be very nice to speak to you in some depth. That'll be lovely. Be a privilege. Really.
Do you reckon that's a true statement, George? It's very easy to get hold of Jeff?
No, not really. No,
I don't know what he's talking about.
You'll never hear from him again, Merv.
No, that'll be it.
I'll pester Eamon.
That's it. Just pester me. That'll be great.
You're allowed to have my contact details, Mervyn. Don't worry about that.
But you have to speak to me to get them. That's the funny. Anyway, Merv, thanks for your thoughts. And we'll advertise the latest book on our podcast cover. Additionally, Merv has donated a signed copy for a lucky winner of our question for the show this week. And the question is, what was the first book that Merv wrote about Millwall Football Club? Was it Ordinary Boys? Because My Dad Does? Or A Natural High? So I'll say that again. What was the first book that Merv wrote about Millwall Football Club? Was it Ordinary Boys? Because My Dad Does? Or A Natural High? Now, send your answers by email to nolutalking@gmail.com. That is NOLUTALKIN. All one word, and talking is without a G, @gmail.com. We will announce the winner on the show on Friday, the 6th of November. Lastly, before you leave us, Merv, what is your prediction for our match against Huddersfield this Saturday?
Right, put me on the spot there. Like I say, the home form's not been the best, but the away form has been great. But it'd be really good to follow up that win at Preston. I'm gonna put my neck on the line and say 2-0 Millwall, and just hope that it's not a case of after Lord Mayor's show.
Well, you had to put that in, didn't you?
That's a plug, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't beat a good plug.
Yeah, I was expecting to ask me where the title come from, and I was ready to tell you. But that was basically it was a common phrase with my dad and all the group that used to stand at the old den.
Thanks again, Merv. All the best with your writing in all of the areas that you do it. And hopefully we can look forward to talking to you once again on the show, not too distant future.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers, look forward to hearing from you.
Yes, we'll do, Jeff.
Well, we'll take a break there and listen to what Kai Bennett gets up to on a Millwall Fan TV.
Hey, I'm Kai from Millwall Fan TV. On Millwall Fan TV, I cover pre-match predictions, post-match analysis, and a bit of full-time reaction when we can go to the games. Also, quite a few X-Lounge chats on my YouTube, actually, as we speak right now. I've got some Martin Wolford, Scott Barron, that just a couple to name a few. So do it for the love of Millwall. Absolutely love Millwall, and let's hope we can push on next year and make the playoffs. And if you could subscribe to Millwall Fan TV, that'd be absolutely amazing. And hopefully we can follow the journey together. Comedy Lines.
I'm Eamon Barclay, and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of Henry Morgan, George Lampy and Jeff Burnage. Kai's Millwall Fan TV is good, and we hope his future in sport journalism comes to fruition. Our final guest tonight is Sean Daly of the Millwall Community Trust. He and his team have been back at work with youngsters who need feeding during the half term. But before we talk to Sean, I caught up with Tom Gale of the Millwall Supporters Club, who tells us how the MSC were involved in raising funds for the quantity of food that was needed. Tom, what have you actually been doing as a supporters club?
Well, the Supporters Club and the MCT are working quite closely at the moment anyway. I'm in constant contact with Sean at the moment with our work with the Millwall Lionesses, which I know you guys know about on the show. And we because we're in daily contact, Sean sort of raises some other things that are going on to see if we can work together and help out. And obviously, back in the summer, the MCT ended up providing over 5,000 meals to local kids. And with obviously the Marcus Rashford thing nationally at the moment, it's gained more traction. But unfortunately, there was going to be a deficit this half term where the MCT wasn't able to fund the amount of meals they wanted to give to the kids. They were probably only going to be able to afford to do 50 in total. I think it was around that Sean told me. And then so he was looking for some funds really to make sure that they could fulfil 100 a day. Over the course of the half term. Now, unfortunately, this was coming in quite late because this was on sort of Friday night, Saturday morning, in which case we sort of had to act quickly. Now, the original idea was that we were going to go out to fans and see if we could raise some money for an appeal, because I know it's something that's close to fans' hearts, but it was just we were concerned that we didn't have enough time to raise the money, because obviously the half term is now, and those hot meals need to go out now. So in that respect, we took a decision. Which was that we have obviously got some money in the bank because of the membership this year, and we haven't been able to use that on match days for obvious reasons, which we would normally do. And so we looked at it and we thought we could help support in that way. And then also on top of that, there are also some benefactors who would wish to remain anonymous, who were happy to put forward some of their own money as well, because they contacted us and see if there's anything they could help to do with around this sort of issue. So we sort of went back to Sean and said, look, we can make this happen, and let's do it.
That's excellent. So it was all a bit short notice, but you managed to get the show on the road, and everything's happening now. And of course, apart from the weather not being the best for what they do down at St Paul's, I'm sure there'll be many children that will be grateful for what they get. We were back there last summer and witnessed the kids being engaged in a variety of sports and also being fed as well, and heard some fantastic stories from Millwall Community Trust trustees about what's been going on. Well done in getting behind them and making that happen.
This morning, so it's what I'm talking to you on, where are we, Tuesday, so they delivered the first 100 meals this morning, and they've actually now taken delivery from some companies such as Innocent Drinks. They've actually provided some free drinks and that sort of thing as well, so it's sort of garnered a bit of steam, and they're actually getting more in now than I think they were, because it got a lot of traction. Obviously Marcus Rashford retweeted what they were doing, and that went quite viral. They've actually ended up in the Sun newspaper as well this week for what they're doing. So I think actually some more people are coming on board now, and using Millwall as a way of getting that through, which is what we sort of discussed with Sean anyway, was how can we get sort of local businesses and put it all together into one package, rather than everyone doing something individually and maybe not hitting the kids that it needed to hit. Because I think in this nationally, this issue, people, 99% of people for it. There's a slight few that are questioning it, and that's probably down to who's actually receiving these meals. And I think, I speak for myself, I work in education, work in schools, and it is important that it gets to the right children. I think the way the MCT are doing this means it is delivered to through the food banks, through the people that they know are in desperate need of these packages, and that's been a really important part of it, that the right people are getting the right things. Whereas in other places, sometimes if you're just doing it as a local business on a small scale, it might not getting to the people that actually really, really need it.
So yeah, that's great news, Tom, and thanks for telling us about it.
No worries, thanks a lot.
Well, they've done well there. But now I'd like to once again welcome Sean Daly to our show. Hello, Sean.
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Hello, Sean.
Good evening, Sean.
Good evening, Sean.
They're all well, actually, Sean. I know they didn't tell you that, but there you go. Well, that was great support from the MSC, the anonymous donors, Marcus Rashford, MBE, Innocent Drinks, and it was needed to keep what we have seen you do on the road. As I understand, there are quite a number of community trusts linked to professional football clubs in England and Wales. These trusts are, I believe, dependent on the financial well-being of the football club that they are associated with. Well, that's a major risk to the trust at this moment in time due to the restrictions imposed through the pandemic. I'm also aware that there is a cross-party common select committee called the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee, who want to identify specific actions that the government can take to guarantee the future survival of the community sports sector. We know you guys are up against the wall, to coin a phrase, and our chairman is bailing out the club each month to the tune of £1 million plus. What is the overall picture that surrounds the community trusts within the football pyramid, Sean?
I think all community trusts are very different. You've got the Premier League clubs that are very big and very powerful, right down to League Two, who are very small, some of them. There might just be one or two staff there. And I sit on lots of meetings with CEOs at all the trusts to sort of talk about what's going on at the moment and how we can safeguard the trusts and the club. Now, every one of those trusts and foundations are a charity, and I think the Charity Commission announced last week that there's going to be about 17,000 charities go bankrupt by Christmas if the COVID-19 carries on. But what's happened very much around the trusts during this time is they've been very adaptable and they've come to the forefront and helped the community. But that doesn't pay bills eventually because, we're losing sort of like 80-90% of our income at the moment. And somehow we've got to adapt and change how we can do that. So I think it's very different for lots of clubs at the moment, and even the Premier League clubs. They're a brand and they work internationally a lot. That's finished. Schools have finished as well. We can't get into schools because they don't want outside agencies within the schools and they want to keep kids in their bubbles. But I think it's a very positive one that the community trusts are going to be there. They're there for a reason, to engage the community and bring the fan base into the club. My worry is if the club goes, the community trust will go, because a lot of them rely on either financial funding from the club or room space from the club, general income for the club. And some of the trusts, their staff are actually employed by the club. And the feeling is at the moment is that, we're there to try and survive. We're not running businesses at the moment. We're there to try and survive and keep there's 6,000 staff employed by trust, keep them employed. And when we get out of this situation, we come even stronger. But I just think a lot of them have adapted and helped the community and helped the council and work at food banks, ready for when we come out of this situation.
Yeah, it's tough times ahead. That's for sure, Sean.
Sean, Henry Morgan here. First of all, keep the great work going. I think I echo that from just about every Millwall fan, and I hope, it's something that me and Eamon have talked about today, in fact, on text about what, the great work you're doing. I've got a question for you. We know there's money in football. Sadly, this only exists in the hands of the Premier League. The rest of the English Football League is generally funded by the fans passing through the gates, and also mainly through the generosity of their board members. Isn't it time for the governance of football in this country to urgently be reformed so it can sustain the 92 league club pyramid with a fairer distribution of funds? So effectively, there's a better strategic management over every single club.
Yeah, I think the government aren't aware of the work we're doing. I think, and that's why this paper has been put together, really. I don't think they understand that, if a football club gets affected, it's community trust and the community is going to be affected. And I look at, some of the work the club is doing at the moment. We've got a team that's third in the league. I'm still going for third. It's not fourth. We're third in the league. We're doing well. Lioness is the top of their league. We've got the Romans that are top of the league as well. We've got recognition from people like Marcus Rashford, from national newspapers about the work we're doing. We've got a prison programme we're just about to start. We've got Divert Project, we've got Keeps projects, we've got work in schools. We're just about to start a hospital project where we're speaking to 2 hospital trusts around how we can support their frontline workers by, getting their shopping for them. So when they finish shift, their shopping's there for them. We're going to help them with their gardening. We're going to sort out their work with their families and deal up with Barclays and how we can help them get access to funds to support them for rent and for clothing, etc. like that. We're talking about the players getting involved in doing Zoom meetings for the family where they're reading bedtime stories for the children and stuff like that. My worry is that if the club goes, or there's an effect on the club, it's going to affect the community. Who's going to pick up all that work if the trust goes? If trusts go all around the country, who is going to pick up all that work? Youth funding and provision is being squeezed. Council have got no money. So who's going to help with all of that? We've got young people that are going to be hit very badly in the job market. There's going to be loads of young people in needs, not employment or education. The trusts pick up that sort of young person and help them get them into employment. And I think, like I said before, there's 6,000 people employed by community trusts. If the club gets affected and the clubs go to the wall, the trusts are going to go to the wall, which is going to affect the community. And I don't think the government are aware of that sort of impact is going to happen.
Hi, Sean. George here, mate.
Hi, George.
All the best to you and the team in helping these children and their families, and, you're doing a marvellous job. Hope upon hope that this cross-party provide a response that government can deliver upon, but there are other sporting trusts, such as the Youth Sports Trust, the Parent Community Sports Trust, etc. Will these organisations be part of the review too? And do you think that one size fits all in this work, or does something else need to happen?
Their review's going to cover all sports. So they've gone to all the governing bodies, to basketball, to rugby, to cricket, to youth providers. They want to see the whole landscape of what is community, what is youth provision, how does sport benefit the community, and it's not just sport. It's education, employment, the whole works, and they want to put it in front of government and say, they needed money. They needed money in certain areas to keep this community work up. Do I think one will fit all? No, because I think all community trusts are different. My community is definitely different from Chelsea's community or Charlton's community. It's different. And the needs of communities are very different. There's high unemployment in certain areas. There's high crime in certain areas. And if I look at somewhere like Southwark, who we service, we've got the highest obesity level in primary schools than any other borough in London. We're number 2 in knife crime and youth crime in London Borough. So my needs are totally different from Wimbledon, Brentford and etc. So one size is not going to fit all, and that's why I think us putting this paper together and saying this is what we do, and this is only a tip of the iceberg what we do. This is what we would probably need as an organisation to service our community and make more impact. And I'm hoping they're going to look at everyone individually, because if they go for one size fits all, that's...
Sean, this is Jeff here. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Jeff.
Like almost all Millwall fans, I just have so much admiration for what you and your trustees and your team of workers are doing. In all my years being involved, I never had to face anything like the situation that we're facing now with the pandemic. And I think it's amazing that the Trust, rather than think, oh my God, we can't keep on doing things, you seem to be doing more than ever. And I think the Trust is more appreciated by fans now than it has been for a very long time. My question would be, though, you started very late on this half term with this food programme. Do you realistically think you can do the same again during the Christmas holidays, for example, and into next year?
It is late start in October. I was sort of like sitting up all day Friday hoping the government was going to change their mind on the free school meals. We put on free holiday camps anyway, but literally the call I made on Saturday to the supporters club was followed by a call to Steve Kavanagh straight away saying, I need the chefs, and if I can get funding in place, can I have the chefs? And literally from both of them it was, do you think you can make it work? And I said, I can make it work. If you give me the resources, I can make it work. And literally within 3 or 4 hours, we got it all sewn up, spoken to the right people to make sure we got the food to the right food banks where the children were going to be. And I've been out delivering, so I've been delivering to the food banks all this week. And that's what I talk about being adaptable, is that I'm going to lead from the front and I'm going to get my senior staff to lead from the front and make those deliveries. I've already put plans in for Christmas. We've already spoken to an organisation about funding for Christmas at the same level. I would hope it would be different and we won't be needed, but I think with everything that's going on with furlough ending and, you know, people not sure about their jobs, I think we're going to be needed even more. So I've already got an organisation set up. They're going to fund Christmas for us as soon as the school holidays happen.
Wow.
And they're going to fund the same level of what the supporters club have. I will go back to the supporters club and see if we can match that as well. So we double what we're, you know, like 200 a day. Personally, I'm not going to give up on what we're doing. I'm working with a club that's got an open door that, as long as I can make it work, they will support me in everything I do. And that's why I think the club is so special. I did my apprenticeship for 18 years at another club. This is my job now. And I've got a club that every time I knock on the door and say, look, we need to support the community, that door's opened and they give me the resources to do it. So we will have plans for Christmas and we will go into New Year. And if the need is there for us, we'll be there to support it.
That's amazing to hear that, Sean. I mean, it is brilliant to hear that the club, from the board through to Steve Kavanagh and his staff, everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. And I think it is beginning to show people on the outside world just what a special club Millwall is. So congratulations again and keep up the good work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. I think, especially given these times and the political climate of the last 10 to 12 years, the support you're doing, having worked in the local in local authorities, both as a teacher and now supporting them, I think it's so important, especially working with those individuals that come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So just keep up the good work. It's so important.
Thank you.
Yeah, the whole team, Sean, have asked me to say to you, just ask and we will help in any way we can. And I add, if any person or organisation out there who is listening, please contact Sean at the Millwall Community Trust. If you're able to give any possible support in terms of both people and or physical financial resources, please get in contact, as both are very much needed. Finally, we wish the MCT all the best in its endeavours and look forward to hearing from you again soon. Thanks, Sean, for letting us know what you're facing and how you're dealing with it. We'll see you again.
Thank you very much for all your support, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, Sean.
Cheers, Sean.
Cheers, Sean. Thank you.
Good night.
We'll take a break there and listen to the helpful tones of Patricia Maslin.
Hi, Patricia Maslin here. The Millwall Community Trust needs volunteer help. Whether you're an organisation with bodies able to assist or an individual, the Trust needs you during the current conditions to support the vulnerable and needy. If you can help make a difference or need help, please contact Sean Daly, the Trust's Chief Executive Officer, by phone on 07958 027060. Once again, that's 07958 027060. Or contact by email sdaly, I'll spell that, SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. I'll repeat that, sdaly, SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. If you can, or you know someone or any organisation who might be able to help, please let the Community Trust know. Thank you.
I'm Eamon Barclay and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of Henry Morgan, Jules Lampy and Jeff Burnage. Before we preview the next two matches, let me tell you that Mill Community Trust today were delighted to announce a new partnership with Charity Hive, the powerful fundraising platform who have today launched the Trust's new bespoke website. Check out the fantastic and informative new website by putting Millwall Community Trust into your browser. You'll find it very, very interesting. Don't give it a miss. Next up, we look ahead to the Millwall versus Huddersfield game this Saturday and our visit to Norwich next Tuesday. The Millwall Romans FC, you might recollect, gave us 2 predictions on the back of their review, 2-1 and a 1-1, and we also heard positive scores given by Andy Frampton and, of course, Merv Payne. First of all, though, we will hear from our own, well, he's here on the show tonight, strangely enough, Henry Morgan, talking with Huddersfield's Terrier blogger Stefan Roux, who gives his view as a member of the opposition.
Welcome to View from the Opposition. Today we're speaking to Huddersfield Town fan Stefan Roux. He controls terrierblog.co.uk for all things Huddersfield Town. Stefan particularly hates Leeds United, has supported Huddersfield for over 20 years, and his favourite player is Christopher Schindler, who I believe scored the penalty to get you promoted. Stefan, is that correct?
That is correct. He's also magnificently handsome.
Also a magnificently handsome young man. Stefan, my one trip to Huddersfield Town was a cold April day in about 1996, so we lost 3-0, which I do hope is not an omen for this weekend, but I imagine you probably do.
I do, and you could go in August and it'll still be freezing.
Brief history of the fixture. Millwall and Huddersfield first played in 1922 in an FA Cup match, and since then honours have been fairly even. Huddersfield's last result, I believe, was a 2-1 loss to Preston. However, you had a red card in that match. Currently sitting 14th in the league, 1-3, drawn 1, lost 3. Stefan, how do you feel Huddersfield Town are doing so far this season?
Better than we expected, given that we cleared out most of our good players over the transfer window. Colin Grant.
Oh, yes. Who I taught, by the way.
Oh, you taught him? He scored last night for West Brom. He's doing his thing. But obviously that was 17 goals for us last season.
Oh, gosh. Replaced him with Fraser Campbell, is that correct?
No, Fraser came in year before.
Oh, okay.
Fraser's a bit of a journeyman, but he's very good. And I think for you guys, you're going to have to watch him on Saturday. He will bully your back line, he will come at them, and he will give the keeper lots of aggression.
Anything else that particularly stands out so far from your season?
I think, Toffolo was great last season in the left-back position, but now we've signed Pieper. And I think Pieper's looking good for a goal as well. They're very much in a wing-back kind of formation now, rather than more defensive. And both of those guys have looked really good down the wing. Toffs has scored 1, should have had 2. Pieper's had a good couple of chances, but he's due one, I think.
So you've already mentioned a couple of names. Is there anyone else that we need to look out for?
Well, I think Corona's scored 1 now, which has got him off the mark. He's got the tally going. And I think he's building confidence. He's not, 17 season striker as yet, but I think with his confidence building and the way that he plays, I think you should look out for him. But definitely the 2 wing backs, Tops and Pieper, you should be really aware of.
Fraser Campbell, what type of a striker is he if we need to look out for? Big, physical, you think you've already mentioned, looking for balls over the top, or is he more of a crosses or a Matt Smith player like we've got at Millwall?
Fraser, he's very much get in, get everybody riled up, annoy them, get everybody to chase him around while something else happens. Although he did score a goal of the month last month with an absolute pitch. He's got the heritage, but he definitely likes to get in and niggle and misbehave and have a go.
But yeah, that'll be an interesting battle with our back three of sort of. I imagine Jake Cooper will be starting there, potentially either Alex Pearce or Sean Hutchinson. Which like like a bit of physicality. So, I mean, from Huddersfield's side, who do you see in the Millwall team potentially causing you some bother?
I think maybe Jed Wallace will give us a few problems. Yeah, he plays well. He's definitely a bit of a talisman for you. We need to be aware of him. We need to close him down. Jonathan Hogg's going to have a job to do. He's starting. If not, we've got Lewis O'Brien, who I think is probably one of the players you should look out for and might not be fully on the radar, but he's excellent.
Jed Wallace obviously has had a lot of attention from other clubs as well. I think we've had numerous rumours about him, so yeah, he's definitely someone who presents a threat. And so, I mean, finally, what is your prediction on Saturday?
I mean, I'm going to have to go 2-1 to us, obviously, because I support the town, but also that seems to be our scoreline this year. Under Carlos Corberán, we've started to go forward properly. It's quite aggressive, but it leaves some holes at the back, particularly playing with the wing backs and only 3 at the back. We can definitely score a couple, and if we're going to win it, we'll definitely be 2-1. Hamer, our keeper, has looked a lot better since he came back from Derby, but he's not the finished article by any stretch of the imagination, and he's probably going to let one in. So I think a 2-1 scoreline would do me.
So a 2-1 Terriers victory on Saturday. Stefan, thank you so much for talking. I wish you all the best for the rest of the season after Saturday, but in the nicest possible way. I hope you lose 6-0.
Well, that was very nice. 6-0. What a prediction that is, Henry. I'm amazed. You obviously, have you been watching the Romans playing or something?
Exactly.
It's affected you. Yeah, well, there's another side, of course, to the view from the opposition, and watch out on Sunday, listeners. Henry will be talking to Stefan again after the game, putting our view with Stefan of how things went on Saturday. What do we think, guys?
I think we are playing very good football at the moment. I'm very impressed with us. Still a little bit worried about our front formation and the man that actually leads us at the front. I think sometimes he's still isolated. Doesn't matter how well we're doing at the moment. But I think we're on form. The team is bubbling with confidence. I think we're going to win 3-1 on Saturday.
Jeff?
I don't agree. I think we'll win the game. That much I do agree with. But I can't see us conceding a goal at the moment. I think it'll be a struggle to get the first goal, like it has been in some of our home games this season. In fact, most of them. But I think we'll end up again winning 1-0 or 2-0. I'm going to go for 2-0.
On Tuesday, we go to newly relegated Norwich. Their start to the season has been reasonably good, with 4 wins, 2 draws and 2 losses. They recorded league wins against Huddersfield, Rotherham, Birmingham and Wickham. They lost by a single goal to Bournemouth away and Derby at home. Their draws were against Preston North End at home, Preston North End who we defeated this week, and Brentford away. How do we fancy the trip to Carrow Road, George?
I think I can't hardly ever remember a Norwich team being in the same league as us when they're doing badly. You know, they're always there or thereabouts. So I tend to think that this is going to be a very difficult game for us and you know, one of the hardest games of the season. So I won't give you my score right yet, but I think it's going to be a difficult game of football for us.
Jeff?
I think this will be a difficult game. I think both clubs will be in the top 6 at the end of the season. Neither club has had a particularly difficult start to the season in terms of fixtures. I think this is the first one we've had that is against someone that could well get promoted to the Premier League. Difficult to predict. I don't think we'll lose. I really don't. I'm going to go for 1-1 at Norwich.
Yeah, I think it'll be a draw down at Norwich myself. Either goalless or 1-1. I mean, they've still got that man, Pookie, who can score some incredible goals. But I think, as you said earlier, Jeff, our defence is more than able and capable to keep Canaries at bay. So I'll go for a draw as well.
That's the score I would have gone with, actually, 1-1.
We're due a win. we're due a win at Norwich. I mean, we haven't won there for a long time. I think, again, it's something like the Preston proportions back in the, I don't want to say the 60s, but I think every time I've been to Norwich, we've been turned over. I remember going there a couple of seasons ago, obviously, when we're 3-2 up with about pocket change to go, and we end up losing that game sickeningly, and that was Timor Pukki that time as well. I think, looking at that derby game, if we can frustrate them, the longer it stays 0-0, the longer we've got a chance of getting a goal. I think we could sneak it 1-0 with a breakaway goal. Someone like Mason Bennett, someone like Jed Wallace, someone like Marlon Romeo, who's, starting to open up his shoulders and have a crack from a bit further out. I'm going to go with a 1-0 Millwall victory, 82nd minute goal from Mason Bennett.
Well, we better get down to Betfred and put our money on that then. Well, people continue to lose their lives to this dreadful virus, or as a consequence of suffering with it, as deaths and infections continue to rapidly rise, and many more remain hospitalised too. Our thoughts go out to their families, friends, and those that take care of them.
This week we hear how dependent the community trust is upon the financial stability of our football club. It is tough times, but you can help the club by joining the Lions Loyalty Club, which costs £40 with benefits. From £25, you can also be a crowdie. For £103.95, you can be a virtual mascot with benefits. And why not sponsor a player's kit for £570 with benefits? All the details and more can be found on the Lions Millwall website. Lastly, don't forget iFollow returns with Carl Bates on Saturday, and 100% of what you pay for the internet streaming service, home or away, goes back to Millwall Football Club. So don't go to one of those dodgy streams online or Facebook or anywhere else that I see being advertised the entire time. Go through iFollow. There may be some painful parts of it, but the money goes to Millwall Football Club. What a good way to improve their revenue in these challenging times. It's good night from Henry Morgan.
And as Henry's talking there about things to pay for the club, can I just remind everybody of the Executive Lounge on match days? It's £50. You get a free-course meal. It's all COVID secure. You have to stay at your own table. It's all service, but it's very nice. You are watching the game on a big screen with lots of other people. I believe this week is sold out. I just thought I'd mention that while Henry was mentioning quite a lot of other stuff that the club are trying to rake money in at this terrible time for them. Right, if I could bring your attention to Scott Johnson, the founder of the Proper Blokes Club. He's looking for gut chaps to come along and join him to break the stigma of men's mental health with walks and talk groups. You can help Scott break the stigma in joining him at HMS Belfast on Thursday evenings at 6 o'clock and on Sunday evenings at 6:30. To walk along the Thames to Surrey Quays, which is just 3.5 miles. Check the Proper Blokes Club on Twitter and Facebook for further details. And if you are suffering, and lots of men are, give Scott a chance and go and join one of them clubs Thursday or a Sunday, and it could be of great benefit to you. Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Player sponsorship for the Lionesses is available this season. So why not give them some added support? And you can find details of this on their website, which is Millwall_LFC. Just put Millwall Lionesses into your browser if you can't do that, and you'll find them easily enough. We have led by example at No One Likes Us Talking and sponsored team captain Libby Stubbs. Don't forget, there's no Lionesses game this weekend, but high-flying Millwall Romans with 44 goals in 4 starts are at St Paul's Rotherhithe on Sunday with a 2 p.m. kickoff. For now, that's good night from me.
Lastly, let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there, which means isolating where necessary, social distancing, the rule of 6, a face mask where necessary, and any local regulations under, well, I still think it's a 3-tier system. And lest I forget, it'll be Pat, Ted and Gary, hosted by me once again next week. But that's it from me. Thanks Henry, George and Jeff. Until the next time, I'm going to say good night.